Later, people would ask Susan Jacobs why she grabbed a stranger's arm that night outside a Korean restaurant in Los Angeles. The answer was simple. She was out of safe choices. 11:47 p.m. on a Friday. 6 blocks from home. Her ex-husband Justin waited under a broken streetlight. Following her. Again. The restraining order had been denied. Insufficient evidence, they said. So when she saw the tall man in the black suit standing outside Lotus Garden, she didn't think. She just reached for him. "Please," she whispered, fingers trembling against expensive fabric. "Please walk with me. He's been following me and I'm scared." The stranger didn't pull away. His hand closed around hers, warm, steady, certain. "Just breathe," he said quietly, Korean accent softening the words. "I've got you." What Susan didn't know was that Sim Tae-young had secrets of his own. Dangerous ones. The kind that would almost cost her everything. But to understand why Susan made that choice, you need to know what her life looked like before that night. 3 years of surviving. Not living surviving. Susan was 32, a single mother working 60-hour weeks as an assistant nurse at County Memorial Hospital in Los Angeles. 2 jobs. 1 3-year-old daughter named Kyra. Her mother Martha, whose arthritis was getting worse. And 1 ex-husband who refused to let go. Justin Jacobs. Clean record. Spotless reputation. And absolutely obsessed with making Susan's life hell. For 3 years, Susan had been running on empty. After rent, daycare, utilities, and credit card minimums, she had maybe $300 left each month. For everything else, she studied for her RN certification on 3 hours of sleep, rode 2 buses to work, missed bedtimes, felt like she was failing at everything. But she kept going, because Kyra needed her. Martha needed her, and giving up wasn't an option. Then, 6 months ago, everything got worse. Justin lost his job. His girlfriend Lisa left him. His friends stopped calling. And instead of looking inward, he looked at Susan, blamed her for everything, started showing up at the hospital, following her home, parking outside Martha's house, texting at odd hours, filing frivolous court motions. The police couldn't help no explicit threats, no physical contact, just terror. Slow, grinding, constant terror. That Friday night, Susan had worked a 12-hour shift. Stayed late because someone called out. Missed her usual bus. Had to take the route that stopped 6 blocks from home instead of 3. She was exhausted. Bone-tired. One more crisis away from breaking. And when she stepped off that bus at 11:47 p.m. and saw Justin waiting under that streetlight, something cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Because she'd been strong for so long, and she just couldn't anymore. Not tonight. Not alone. Susan's heels clicked faster on the pavement. 1 block down. 5 to go. Keys already between her fingers like Martha taught her. Thumb on the panic button of her phone. Not that it mattered. The police had made it clear following someone isn't illegal. No explicit threats, no case. She could hear Justin behind her now. Footsteps gaining speed. "Susan." His voice cut through the empty street. Too loud. Too aggressive. "Susan, stop. We need to talk." She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Throat tight. Breath coming shallow. "I said stop." Angrier now. Louder. "Don't you walk away from me. I'm talking to you about our daughter." Using Kyra's name like a weapon. Like he had any right. 3 missed visits this year. 0 child support payments. But sure, now he cared about their daughter. Susan's vision blurred at the edges. Panic or exhaustion, she couldn't tell anymore. Then she saw him. Outside Lotus Garden, the Korean restaurant that somehow stayed busy even at midnight. Tall. Maybe 6'2", 6'3". Black suit that fit like it was made for him. Not off the rack from Men's Warehouse. Custom. Dark hair styled with precision. He was looking at his phone, but there was something about the way he stood. Alert. Aware. like those Secret Service agents you see on the news. Controlled stillness. Susan didn't plan it, didn't think, just moved. Her floral dress swirled around her legs as she walked straight toward him. The stranger glanced up. Dark eyes. Sharp. Intelligent. Assessing. Susan's trembling fingers found his sleeve. The fabric was smooth. Expensive. Solid. Real. Please, she whispered, voice breaking. Please walk with me. He's been following me and I'm scared. For one terrible second, Susan thought he'd pull away. Thought she'd just made everything worse. But then his hand closed around hers. Warm. Calloused despite that expensive suit. Steady as steel. His dark eyes swept past her to Justin, who'd frozen 10 feet away. The stranger's assessment took maybe 2 seconds. Exhausted woman in a floral dress, terror written across her face. Aggressive man in rumpled brown leather jacket, predatory posture. Not complicated math. Just breathe, he said quietly. Korean accent softening the English words, making them sound almost gentle. I've got you. Then he turned to face Justin. Didn't move aggressively. Didn't shout. Just positioned himself between them. Immovable. Justin tried to recover. Puffed up his chest. Hey man, this is between me and my wife. Ex-wife, the stranger corrected. Voice still quiet. Still calm. But something in it made the air feel colder. And you're leaving, now. Justin sputtered. You don't know what you're... I know you've been following her, the stranger interrupted. I know she's afraid. He took one step forward. Just one. And I know if I see you near her after tonight, you won't be dealing with police. A pause. Heavy. Weighted. You'll be dealing with me. It wasn't a threat. Not really. More like a promise. A fact. Something about his absolute certainty, the contrast between that elegant appearance and the dangerous stillness underneath made Justin step back. Then another step. This isn't over, Justin muttered. But he was already backing away, retreating toward the parking lot behind them. Susan watched him go, knees shaking so hard she thought they might give out. The stranger's hand tightened around hers, steadying. Come on, he said gently. Let me walk you home. They walked 3 blocks in silence, his black suit a shadow beside her floral dress. He matched her pace exactly. Didn't rush her. Didn't ask questions. Just walked. Present. Solid. Safe. Susan's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Adrenaline crash hitting hard. She clutched her black handbag tighter, trying to hold herself together. When they reached Martha's Gate, the white picket fence Susan had repainted last summer, he finally spoke. Wait here. He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket. Simple. Cream-colored. Just a name and phone number. Sim Tae-young, import-export consultant. If he comes near you again, Tae-young said, handing her the card. Call me, anytime, day or night. Susan stared at the card. Then at him. Why would you help me? She asked. Voice still shaky. You don't even know me. Tae-young's expression softened. Eyes kind despite those sharp features. I know you chose to fight instead of freeze, he said. That takes courage. Most people don't have. He stepped back, ready to leave. Be safe, Susan. He turned and walked away before she could ask how he knew her name. Before she could ask anything, Susan stood there at Martha's Gate, business card trembling in her hand, watching him disappear into the Los Angeles night. And for the first time in 3 years, she felt something besides fear. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying hope. Have you ever had to choose between 2 risks when there was no safe option? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because Susan's midnight gamble is just the beginning. What she doesn't know yet is that Sim Tae-young has secrets of his own, the kind that will almost cost her everything she's fighting for. That night, Susan barely slept. 3 hours. Maybe. Broken into 20-minute chunks between checking the locks and listening for car engines outside. At 6 a.m., Kyra climbed into bed. small warm body burrowing against her side. Pancakes, Mama? Susan's eyes burned with exhaustion, but she smiled anyway. Chocolate chip? Kyra's enthusiastic nod made her wild curls bounce. On the nightstand, Taeyoung's business card caught the early morning light. Cream-colored. Simple. Just a name and number. Susan stared at it while Kyra chattered about her stuffed elephant Penelope. Import, export consultant. What did that even mean? Downstairs, Martha was already at the stove. The smell of coffee filled the small kitchen. Folgers, the red container sitting on the counter. Martha took one look at Susan's face and poured a second cup. 2 sugars. Cream. Just how Susan liked it. You look like you got hit by a truck, baby, Martha said. Gentle. Concerned. Susan accepted the coffee, wrapped both hands around the warm mug. Long night. Martha flipped a pancake. Didn't push. Just waited. It was one of her superpowers. Patient silence that eventually broke through any wall. That man who walked you home, Martha said finally. Voice casual. Too casual. He looked like he could end someone's whole career with a phone call. She slid pancakes onto Kyra's frozen-themed plate. Elsa's face disappearing under chocolate chips. Want to tell me about him? Susan focused on her coffee. Nothing to tell. He helped me. That's all. Baby, I saw how you were shaking when you came in. Martha's hand covered hers. Warm. Steady. Just like Taeyoung's had been. And I saw how you weren't shaking when he was beside you. Susan's throat tightened. Mama. I'm not saying anything except this, Martha interrupted. Whatever that man is, whoever he is, he made you feel safe. She squeezed Susan's hand. That's not nothing. 10:47 a.m. Kyra was down for her nap. Martha was in the garden, pulling weeds despite her arthritis. Susan sat on her bed, phone in hand. Taeyoung's business card on the nightstand. She'd picked it up 17 times already. Now she typed. Deleted. Typed again. This is Susan from last night. Thank you for walking me home. Her thumb hovered over send. What was she doing? He was a stranger. She knew nothing about him except he wore expensive suits and made Justin back down with just his presence. That should terrify her. Maybe it should. But it didn't. Susan hit send before she could overthink it more. Set the phone face down on the Target comforter. Stood up. Walked to the window. The phone buzzed. 90 seconds. That's all it took. Susan's heart hammered as she picked it up. I'm glad you're safe. How are you doing today? Such a simple question. Normal. Like they were friends. Like last night was just a thing that happened, not life-altering. Something cracked in Susan's chest. Not broke. Cracked. Like ice beginning to thaw. She sat back down. Typed carefully. Tired. Kyra wanted pancakes at 6 a.m. His response came quickly. Chocolate chip? Susan stared at her phone. How could he possibly? Then she remembered. She'd mentioned Kyra's favorite breakfast last night. In passing. One sentence while they walked. He'd remembered. Yes, how did you know? You told me. You said she asks for them every Saturday. I did? You did. Susan couldn't remember saying that. Couldn't remember much of anything from those 3 blocks except the feeling of his hand around hers. But he'd listened. Really listened. They texted back and forth for 20 minutes. About nothing. About everything. Martha's arthritis. The weather. How LA traffic was impossible even on weekends. Whether In-N-Out or Shake Shack made better burgers. Nothing profound. Everything meaningful. Susan realized she was smiling. Actually smiling. At her phone. For the first time in months. That night, Susan had another late shift. 11 p.m. finish. She didn't text Taeyoung. Didn't call. Didn't ask. But when she stepped off the bus at 11:45 p.m., he was there. Leaning against the Lotus Garden wall. Same spot. Hands in his pockets. Patient. Like he had all the time in the world. Susan's breath caught. How did you? You said late shifts. He interrupted gently. Figured I'd just be here. He straightened, fell into step beside her. If you didn't need me, I'd have gone home. They walked 3 blocks. Comfortable silence. The kind that doesn't need filling. Susan's exhaustion felt different with him beside her. Still tired. Still aching. But safe. At Martha's gate, he stopped. Same time Monday? Susan nodded. Didn't trust her voice. Didn't trust anything except the way he made the world feel smaller. Manageable. Less terrifying. He smiled. Small. Genuine. Good night, Susan. Good night. She watched him walk away. Again. Disappearing into the Los Angeles darkness. And thought about Martha's words. He made you feel safe. That's not nothing. No. It really wasn't. Men who seemed too good were always hiding something. Susan knew that. Had learned it the hard way with Justin. But maybe, just maybe, some strangers were worth the risk. 2 weeks passed. Nightly walks. 3 blocks. Sometimes in silence. Sometimes talking about everything and nothing. Susan learned things. Small things. Tae-young grew up in LA, but his parents were from Seoul. He took his coffee black. No sugar. No cream. He had a sister who died young. Didn't elaborate. Susan didn't push. He asked about Kyra's daycare. Remembered her teacher's name was Miss Rodriguez. Asked about Martha's arthritis. Whether the new medication was helping. They laughed. Actually laughed. About bad hospital cafeteria food. About how Kyra insisted Penelope the elephant needed her own seat at dinner. About LA drivers who treated turn signals like suggestions. It felt normal. Safe. Dangerous. Friday night. 2 weeks exactly since that first walk. They stood outside Lotus Garden. Same spot where Susan had grabbed his arm. Tae-young hesitated. Unusual for him. He was always so certain. Would you have dinner with me? He asked. Voice careful. Real dinner, not midnight safety escorts. Susan's stomach flipped. A date. He was asking her on a date. She hadn't been on a date in 4 years. Not since before Kyra. I don't know if... Bring Martha and Kyra, he interrupted. Quick. Like he'd anticipated her hesitation. If that makes you more comfortable. Or we can sit by the window where everyone can see us. He met her eyes. Whatever you need to feel safe. That acknowledgement. That respect for her fear. Her boundaries. That's what made her say yes. Okay. Voice small. Saturday, 6 o'clock? His smile could have lit up the whole street. Saturday, 6 o'clock. Hankook Garden sat in the heart of Koreatown. Neon signs in Korean and English. The smell of grilling meat and kimchi hitting the street. Susan had changed 3 times. Settled on a floral dress. Lighter than the navy one from that first night. Cream background with pale pink flowers. From Target's summer collection 2 years ago. Still nice. Still her. She'd even worn the small gold hoops Martha gave her for her 30th birthday. Felt silly. Nervous. Excited. Terrified. Martha had insisted on coming. Moral support, she'd said. But Susan knew the truth. Her mother was vetting him. Good. She should. Tae-young waited outside. Dark gray suit this time. Slightly less formal than the all-black. Charcoal tie. White shirt. He looked expensive. Polished. But when he saw Kyra, he crouched down. Eye level. You must be Kyra. I'm Tae-young. Your mom's told me a lot about you. Kyra studied him. Serious. 3-year-olds were brutal judges of character. Do you like elephants? Tae-young considered this carefully. I think elephants are very wise animals. Do you have an elephant? Penelope. Kyra pulled the stuffed animal from her little backpack. Threadbare. Loved. She's beautiful, Tae-young said. Completely sincere. Should we find her a seat at dinner? Kyra nodded enthusiastically. Susan's heart did something complicated in her chest. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with Saturday evening energy. Families. Couples. The elderly Korean owner greeted Tae-young in rapid Korean. They spoke for a moment. The owner laughed, patted his shoulder, led them to a corner table. Private but visible, just like he'd promised. The tabletop grill fascinated Kyra. Martha charmed the owner in that effortless way she had. Susan watched Tae-young with her daughter. This man in his expensive suit, custom-tailored, probably cost more than her monthly rent, letting a 3-year-old steal bites of bulgogi from his plate, teaching her to say delicious in Korean. Mashisoyo. Kyra's attempt was adorable. Completely wrong. Tae-young didn't correct her, just smiled. Perfect. After dinner, Kyra fell asleep against Martha's shoulder, full of Korean barbecue and contentment. Martha excused herself, going to walk her around, let her get some air. Translation, giving them privacy. Susan sipped her water, Dasani bottle sweating condensation, tried to find courage. Can I ask you something? Tae-young set down his tea. Anything. What exactly do you do? She met his eyes. Because men who dress like you and move like you, that's not just import, export. Silence. Long. Heavy. Susan half expected him to deflect. Lie. Change the subject. Instead, he leaned back, met her gaze directly. My father built a business protecting Korean immigrants in LA, he said. Voice steady. Some of that business wasn't legal. He didn't look away. When he died 15 years ago, I inherited everything. The legitimate operations and the complicated ones. Susan's heart hammered. I've spent the last 5 years transitioning everything to legal, clean businesses. He paused. But my past is documented. If someone looked hard enough, they'd find arrests that were dismissed. Business partnerships with people who went to prison. Properties held through shell companies. His jaw tightened. I'm not that person anymore. But I was. And that past doesn't disappear just because I changed. Susan should have been scared. Should have grabbed Kyra and run. Instead, she heard herself talking. About Justin. About the affair during her pregnancy. How she'd found out from a coworker at County Memorial. Sarah from pediatrics. Awkward. Pitying. I thought you should know. About Lisa. Her former best friend, who'd helped pick out Kyra's nursery colors. Mint, green, and cream. Who'd thrown her baby shower. Who'd been sleeping with her husband the entire time. About 3 years of double shifts. Crushing debt. The restraining order denied for insufficient evidence. Justin's stalking that never quite crossed legal lines. Sometimes I'm so tired, Susan whispered. I forget what it feels like not to be afraid. Tae-young's hand moved across the table, stopped just short of touching hers, respecting her space. You shouldn't have to be tired and afraid, he said, voice low, fierce. You shouldn't have to choose between safety and surviving. I can help with that. Why would you want to? The question came out broken, desperate. His answer was simple. Because when you grabbed my hand 2 weeks ago, you reminded me that protection isn't about power, it's about showing up. He smiled. Small. Sad. And I want to keep showing up for you. Susan's next question surprised even her. Maybe it was the soju. Maybe it was feeling safe for the first time in years. Have you hurt people? Tae-young didn't flinch. Yes. Honest. Direct. Not in 5 years, but yes. I won't insult you by pretending I'm something I'm not. Silence stretched between them. Kyra's soft snoring drifted from across the restaurant. Martha was definitely listening while pretending not to. Are you trying to scare me away? Tae-young's surprised laugh was quiet. Honestly, yes. You deserve someone uncomplicated. Susan thought about that. About Justin's clean record. His spotless background check. How none of that stopped him from destroying her. I was married to someone uncomplicated, she said finally. He had a clean record and he terrorized me. She met Tae-young's eyes. You have a complicated past and you've never made me feel anything but safe. Her hand moved, closed the distance, touched his fingers. So maybe uncomplicated isn't what I need. If you were Susan, could you accept someone's dangerous past if their present felt safe? Drop your thoughts in the comment. I'm genuinely curious where you'd draw that line. The next 6 weeks changed everything. Quietly. Gradually. Like seasons shifting. Tae-young didn't make grand gestures. Didn't sweep in like some romance novel hero. He just showed up. Consistently. Reliably. The way no one ever had before. Week 2. Susan mentioned her lawyer. Court appointed. Overworked. Barely returned calls. 3 days later, Tae-young handed her a business card. Catherine. Family law. She specializes in domestic abuse cases. Susan stared at the card. Embossed. Professional. I can't afford. Pro bono, he interrupted gently. She owes me a favor. She's expecting your call. Susan wanted to argue. Wanted to say she didn't need charity. But she did need help. Desperately. Thank you. 2 words. Inadequate for what he'd just given her. On week 3, Martha's arthritis flared badly. Hands swollen. Moving slow. Hiding pain behind smiles. Susan mentioned it once. Just once. During their nightly walk. The next Sunday, Tae-young arrived with information. USC Medical Center. Clinical trial for rheumatoid arthritis. New medication showing promising results. My sister, he started. Stopped. Started again. Before she died, she had arthritis. I researched treatments. This one's legitimate. He'd already made calls. Got Martha on the waiting list. Just like that. On week 4. The porch railing. Broken for 6 months. Susan kept meaning to fix it. Never had time. Or money. Or energy. Tae-young showed up on a Saturday morning. Toolbox in hand. Spent 3 hours replacing wood. Sanding. Staining. Martha brought him lemonade. Kyra helped by handing him the wrong tools. He never complained. Just smiled. Patient. Kind. When he finished, the railing was perfect. Sturdy. Safe. You didn't have to do that, Susan said. He wiped his hands on an old rag. I know. Sunday dinners became tradition. Every week. 6 o'clock. Tae-young would arrive with ingredients. Teach Kyra to make Korean food. Bulgogi. Japchae. Tteokbokki that Kyra declared spicy but good. After dinner, he'd read to her. Korean children's books. His voice soft. Lilting through unfamiliar syllables. Kyra didn't understand the words. Didn't matter. She loved the sound. The attention. The consistency. Susan would watch from the doorway. This man in his expensive clothes. Sitting on Kyra's twin bed with the Moana sheets. Reading about tigers and rabbits and clever foxes. Her daughter curled against his side. Completely trusting. It terrified her. Tuesday night. 11 p.m. Susan's break at County Memorial. She sat in the staff room. Vending machine humming. Studying for her RN certification. Flashcards spread on the table. Someone knocked. Tae-young stood in the doorway. 2 coffees from Starbucks. Her order. 2 sugars. Cream. How did you... You mentioned you had a late shift. He set the coffee down. Didn't stay. Didn't hover. Just smiled. Study well. Gone before she could say thank you. 2 a.m. on a Thursday. Kyra woke up coughing. Wheezing. Allergies. Bad. Susan tore through the medicine cabinet. No children's Benadryl. She'd forgotten to refill. Walgreens was closed. CVS was 20 minutes away. No car. Panic rising. She texted Tae-young. Didn't expect a response. It was 2 a.m. Her phone rang 30 seconds later. I'm coming. 20 minutes later, he arrived. Children's Benadryl. Grape flavored. Kyra's favorite. Also a humidifier. Just in case. How did you get this so fast? I know a 24-hour pharmacy in Koreatown. He stayed while Kyra's breathing eased. Sat on the couch. Quiet. Present. Martha came downstairs in her robe. Took one look. Went back to bed smiling. Sunday afternoon. Martha washing dishes. Susan drying. Through the kitchen window, Tae-young pushed Kyra on the swing. Higher. Higher. Kyra's delighted shrieks filling the yard. That man is in love with you, Martha said. Casual. Like commenting on the weather. You know that, right? Susan focused on the plate. Blue ceramic. Chipped edge. We're friends. Martha's laugh was soft. Knowing. Baby, friends don't look at each other like that. She handed Susan another dish. Friends don't memorize coffee orders and show up at 2 a.m. with children's Benadryl. He's building a life around you, Kyra, and me. Her hand covered Susan's. Question is, are you going to let him? Susan's throat tightened. What if I trust him and he leaves? The fear came out broken. Raw. What if Kyra gets attached and he decides this is too complicated? What if I'm making the same mistake I made with Justin? Martha dried her hands. Turned Susan to face her. Justin was a mistake because he made you small. Her voice was firm. Gentle. This man makes you braver. That's the difference. Across town, Justin's apartment was falling apart. 3rd floor. No elevator. 6 months since Lisa left. 4 months since he lost his sales job. 2 months since his friends stopped returning calls. The living room was a mess. Pizza boxes. Beer cans. Laptop open to Susan's Facebook. Limited profile. She'd blocked him. But he'd found ways. Fake accounts. Mutual friends. Photos leaked through. Susan smiling. Susan with a man. Tall. Asian. Expensive suit. That man with Kyra. His daughter. Justin's obsession crystallized into something concrete. Susan was the problem. If she'd just forgiven him. If she'd just tried harder. If she'd just been better. None of this would have happened. He opened Google. Searched for private investigators. Found one. Pete Rogers. Strip mall office in Burbank. Reviews said he was thorough. Discreet. Affordable payment plans. Justin made the call. Pete's investigation took 3 weeks. Photos first. Susan and the Asian man walking at midnight. Sitting at Hancock Garden. At Martha's house with Kyra. Then the digital deep dive. Property records. Business registrations. Court documents. The gold mine came week 4. Arrest records. Dismissed. But existing. Assault charges from 2010. Bar fight. Charges filed and dropped in 2015. No details. Just records. Business partnerships. Danny Kim. Currently serving 10 years for racketeering. News articles. Old ones. Sim family controlled underground economy in Koreatown, sources say. Shell companies. LLCs. Properties registered under corporate names. International wire transfers. Cash-heavy businesses. Pete compiled everything. Manila folder. Thick. Damning. Justin sat in Pete's office. Cheap laminate desk. Buzzing fluorescent lights. Pete slid the folder across. What you're looking at is explosive. He leaned back. But it's old. No current criminal activity. Guy's been clean for 5 years. Justin flipped through pages. Arrest records. Photos. Business documents. But he wasn't always. His voice was certain. Righteous. That's what matters. Pete's expression shifted. Uncomfortable. You understand using this to weaponize custody could backfire? Judges don't like parents playing gotcha. Justin closed the folder. I'm protecting my daughter from a criminal. Completely convinced. Any judge will see that. Michael Bradford's office smelled like old coffee and desperation. Ambulance chaser. Payment plans. Billboard on the 101. Injured? Call Bradford. But he'd take family law cases. For the right price. Justin showed him Pete's folder. Michael read carefully. Slowly. This is circumstantial and old. He looked up. But in family court, perception matters. He smiled. Shark-like. We can file emergency custody modification. Claim mother exposes minor to dangerous associates. They drafted the motion together. Known criminal history. Organized crime ties. Impaired judgment. Child welfare concerns. Michael's strategy was simple. We're not saying he's currently criminal. We're saying his past demonstrates dangerous connections that put Kyra at risk. Mother's choice to involve him shows poor judgment. Perfect. Legal. Devastating. Tuesday afternoon. Certified mail arrived. Susan signed for it. Didn't think much about it. Probably something from the hospital. Insurance paperwork. Martha was in the living room with Kyra. Crayons. Coloring books. Doc McStuffins on TV. Susan opened the envelope at the kitchen table. The words blurred. Emergency motion for custody modification. Respondent mother engages in relationship with Sim Tae-young, individual with documented criminal history. Exposes minor child to dangerous environment. Attached photos. Her and Tae-young. Walking. Eating. Smiling. Arrest records. News articles about his father. Business documents. Everything. Weaponized. Susan's hands shook. Breath came short. Room tilting. Baby, what is it? Martha's voice. Concerned. Closer. Susan couldn't speak. Just handed her the papers. Watched her mother's face change. Shock. Anger. Fear. He found out about Tae-young, Susan whispered. Voice breaking. Justin's trying to take Kyra. Susan left Kyra with Martha. Drove to downtown LA. Hands shaking on the wheel of her old Honda Civic. Check engine light on. Always on. She'd never been to Tae-young's office. Never asked. Never wanted to intrude. Now she had no choice. The building was glass and steel. Gleaming. Expensive. The kind of place that made her floral Target dress feel inadequate. 15th floor. Import. Export. Legitimate. Legal. She hoped. The receptionist looked up. Polished. Professional. Can I help you? I need to see Tae-young. Sim Tae-young. Her voice cracked. It's urgent. Something in Susan's face must have shown. The receptionist picked up the phone. Spoke quietly. He'll be right out. 30 seconds. Tae-young appeared. Surprise on his face. Then concern. One look at her. That's all it took. What happened? Susan couldn't speak. Just handed him the envelope. Court documents. PI photos. Everything. Watched his face as he read. Jaw tightening. Muscle jumping in his cheek. The manila folder with Pete's full report. His entire past. Catalogued. Weaponized. Presented as evidence of her unfitness. He didn't speak. Just walked to his office. She followed. Floor-to-ceiling windows. LA sprawling below. Downtown traffic. Endless. Tae-young stood there. Silent. Looking out. When he finally spoke, his voice was controlled. Strained. Your lawyer, what did she say? Susan's composure cracked. She said if I stay with you, I'll lose Kyra. The words came out broken. Desperate. She said Justin's motion is manipulative and probably won't succeed, but it might. She said no judge wants to risk putting a child in danger, even perceived danger. She said family court isn't about fairness, it's about eliminating risk. Her voice broke completely. And you? Your risk. Tae-young turned. She saw something new in his eyes. Fear. Not of Justin. Not of consequences. Fear of losing her. Then I'll step back. His voice was quiet. Final. Completely. I'll disappear from your life until after the hearing. I'll provide statements, character references, documentation of legitimate businesses. He moved closer. Didn't touch her. But I won't give Justin ammunition. I won't be the reason you lose her. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter. Fierce now. Intense. Kyra matters. You matter. I love you both enough to walk away if that's what keeps her safe. Susan's world stopped. You love me? Taeyoung's hands framed her face. Gentle. Certain. I fell in love with you the night you grabbed my hand instead of running. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. I fell in love with your courage, your strength, the way you show up for everyone who needs you. His voice softened. I fell in love watching you be a mother to Kyra, a daughter to Martha, a nurse to strangers. He leaned his forehead against hers. So yes, I love you, which is exactly why I'm leaving. Tears spilled down Susan's cheeks. His thumbs caught them, wiped them away. What if I don't want you to leave? His whisper was devastated. Then I'm begging you to want something different, because I can't be the reason you lose your daughter. Susan stepped back, creating distance, physical space to think. She took a long breath, made a decision. No. Her voice was stronger now, clearer. I'm not doing this. Taeyoung looked confused. Susan, I'm not letting Justin terrorize me. She met his eyes. I'm not letting fear make my choices. I'm not sacrificing the first real relationship I've had in 3 years because my ex-husband hired a PI. She moved closer. I'm going to fight. If you fight and lose, then I lose fighting for something real. She grabbed his hands. Instead of losing by giving up, I'm asking you not to leave. I'm asking you to stand beside me through this. Her voice steadied. But I need to know, are you willing to have every detail of your past examined in open court? Are you willing to be judged? Questioned? Have your father's history thrown at you? She paused. Because that's what Justin will do. Taeyoung's hands came up, framed her face again. I've been judged my entire life. His voice was quiet. Certain. By police, by community, by business partners, by people who see a Korean last name and assume Yakuza connections. He smiled. Sad. Determined. I've spent 15 years proving I'm more than my father's legacy. If I have to prove it again in court to keep you in my life, to keep Kyra safe, to keep Martha happy, to keep us together, I'll do it. The kiss was desperate, fierce, full of everything they were fighting for. His promise came against her lips. We're going to win this. Together. They called Catherine immediately. Conference call from Taeyoung's desk. Speakerphone. Professional. Efficient. Catherine's voice was measured. This makes it harder, but not impossible. Papers rustling on her end. We need overwhelming evidence. Taeyoung's legitimate reformation. Justin's pattern of harassment. Susan's excellent parenting. The stability Taeyoung adds to the household. She outlined the strategy. CPS interviews. Susan cooperative. Prepared. Demonstrating stable home. Psychological evaluation. Susan participates fully. Addresses questions directly. No defensiveness. Taeyoung's documentation. 5 years of tax returns. Business licenses. Community involvement. Letters from business partners. Clergy. Employees. Counter evidence on Justin. Hospital security footage of stalking. Supervisor statements about harassment complaints. Documentation of missed child support. Cancelled visitations. It's going to be invasive, Catherine warned. Uncomfortable. They'll dig into everything. Susan looked at Taeyoung. His hand found hers. We're ready. The next 6 weeks were hell. CPS worker showing up unannounced. Clipboard. Questions. Evaluating the home. Susan's parenting. Martha's involvement. Interviewing Kyra. Does Tay-Tay ever yell? Does Mommy seem scared? Do you feel safe? Kyra didn't understand. Kept asking why the nice lady visited so much. The psychological evaluation was worse. Dr. Morrison. Kind eyes. Invasive questions. Do you believe your romantic feelings impair your judgment regarding your daughter's safety? How do you reconcile Mr. Sims' criminal history with your responsibility as a mother? What would you do if forced to choose between your relationship and your child? Susan answered honestly, carefully, trying not to sound defensive, trying not to break. Tai Young provided everything. Business records, tax returns showing legitimate income, character references from community leaders, bank statements, lease agreements, proof of transition from shadow to light. Martha gave her deposition. Devastating testimony. About which man showed up, which man terrorized, which man protected. Catherine was relentless, thorough, building their case brick by brick. The toll showed. Susan lost weight, stress-stealing appetite. Her scrubs hung loose. Coworkers noticed. Didn't ask. She couldn't sleep. 3 hours a night. Maybe. Kyra asked why Mommy cried. Susan lied. Happy tears, baby. Martha watched with worried eyes. Baby, are you sure you can survive this? Susan's answer was automatic. I don't know. Honest. Raw. But I know I can't survive giving up. If you had to choose between protecting your child and protecting your chance at love, which would you choose? Or is there a way to protect both? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because Susan is about to find out if fighting for both is brave or foolish. Van Nuys Family Court. Tuesday morning, 8:47 a.m. Susan arrived in Martha's navy dress. Borrowed. Professional. Not expensive. From Macy's clearance rack 3 years ago. But clean. Pressed. Appropriate. Martha's hand gripped hers. Tight. Reassuring. Tae Young wore a dark gray tailored suit. Understated. Nothing flashy. Nothing that screamed money or power. Just dignified. Respectful. Catherine strode ahead. Confident. Briefcase in hand. Expensive heels clicking on linoleum. The waiting room smelled like stale coffee and anxiety. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Harsh. Unforgiving. Families everywhere. Various states of crisis. Crying children. Angry parents. Lawyers whispering strategies. Susan's stomach churned. She'd had coffee, Folgers, 2 sugars, cream, couldn't keep down breakfast. Kyra was with a friend from daycare. Didn't need to see this. Didn't need to know Daddy was trying to take her away. Justin arrived at 8:52. Michael Bradford beside him, cheap suit, slightly rumpled, billboard lawyer. Justin looked nervous, but righteous, convinced he was saving Kyra, protecting her, being a good father. Their eyes met. Susan and Justin, 3 years of history in one glance. Love, betrayal, pain, anger, everything unsaid, everything that couldn't be undone. Tae Young positioned himself slightly behind Susan, present, supportive, but not dominating, not claiming space that wasn't his. Respectful. Always respectful. The bailiff called them at 9-3. Family law case, 2026F. L03847, Jacobs, v. Jacobs, custody modification. The courtroom was smaller than Susan expected. Wood paneling, American flag, California state flag. Judge's bench elevated, imposing. Judge Patricia Morrison presided. Black woman, mid-50s. Reading glasses on a chain. Reputation for cutting through nonsense. Catherine had done her homework. Judge Morrison is fair, she'd said. She doesn't tolerate games. Susan hoped that was true. Michael Bradford stood first. Opening statement. Your Honor, this is a simple matter of child safety. His voice carried false sincerity. Miss Jacobs has introduced a man with documented criminal history into her minor daughter's life. He gestured to Tae Young. We're not impugning Mr. Sims' current character. We're concerned about exposure to dangerous associates from his past. Miss Jacobs' judgment in creating this risk. He sat down, satisfied. Catherine stood, poised, prepared. Your Honor, this is a matter of a vindictive ex-husband, weaponizing a man's reformed past. Her voice was clear, strong, We'll demonstrate Mr. Jacobs' pattern of stalking, harassment, and manipulation. We'll show that the only danger to this child comes from her biological father's obsession with controlling her mother. She sat. Judge Morrison made notes. Expression neutral. Unreadable. Michael called Justin first. Justin took the stand. Nervous energy. Fidgeting. But determined. His narrative was rehearsed. Concerned father. Blindsided by divorce. Wanting daughter safe. Saw photos of Susan with a known criminal. Hired a PI out of parental duty. I love Kyra more than anything, he said. Voice breaking. Theatrical. When I saw those arrest records, those news articles about organized crime, I couldn't sleep. What kind of father would I be if I didn't protect her? Some people in the gallery nodded. Sympathetic. Susan felt sick. Catherine's cross-examination was surgical. Precise. Devastating. Mr. Jacobs, how many court-ordered visits with Kyra have you attended in the past year? Justin shifted. I've been dealing with employment challenges. The answer is 3 out of 26. Catherine's voice cut through his excuse. You've missed 88% of your scheduled time with the daughter you claim to want to protect. Justin flushed. How much child support have you paid in the past 6 months? I lost my job. $0. Catherine didn't let him finish. You've contributed nothing while Miss Jacobs worked 60-hour weeks to support your child. She pulled out a tablet. Hospital security footage. And the restraining order Miss Jacobs applied for you contest that you were stalking her? I was trying to talk to her about Kyra. The footage played. Silent. Damning. Justin following Susan to the parking lot. Waiting by her car. Confronting her despite her obvious distress. Does trying to talk typically involve following someone who's trying to get away from you? Justin had no answer. Just stammered. Flustered. Exposed. Pete Rogers testified next. Professional. Detached. Presented photographs. Arrest records. Business connections. Subject has documented history of assault charges. Business partnerships with convicted felons. Properties held through shell companies. He made it sound sinister. Organized. Criminal. Catherine's cross was methodical. Mr. Rogers. You mention arrest charges from 2010 and 2015. What was the outcome? Dismissed in both cases. So Mr. Sim was never convicted of any crime? Not to my knowledge. And these business partnerships, did your investigation reveal any current illegal activity? Pete hesitated. No, but past associations. I'm asking about current, Mr. Rogers. Catherine's voice sharpened. Did you find evidence of current criminal activity? Long pause. No. How long has Mr. Sim operated legitimate businesses? My research indicates approximately 5 years of documented legitimate operations. So for 1/3 of his adult life, he's been running clean businesses, paying taxes, operating within legal boundaries? Pete nodded, reluctant. Technically, yes. Catherine called Tae-young. He stood, walked to the stand, calm, composed, took the oath. Saturday. Mr. Sim, Mr. Bradford has characterized you as dangerous. Are you dangerous? Tae-young didn't flinch. I was. Honest. Direct. I'm not proud of that person, but I won't pretend he didn't exist. I made choices in my 20s I would never make now. I hurt people in business dealings that weren't honorable. He paused. When my father died, I inherited an organization that profited from desperation. It took me years to understand how wrong that was. What changed? Tae-young's voice softened. My sister died. Na-young was 23, killed in a car accident while fleeing an abusive ex-boyfriend. His hands tightened. I had all this power, all these resources, and I couldn't save her because I didn't know she needed saving. He looked at Judge Morrison. That's when I understood. Real power isn't controlling people or situations. It's showing up for people who need you. So I spent 5 years dismantling everything dishonorable my father built. I'll never get those years back. But I can make sure the next 30 years are different. Michael Bradford tried to shake him. You admit to hurting people? Yes. And you think that's acceptable background for someone around a 3-year-old child? I think people can change. Tae-young's voice was steady. I think reformation is possible. I think who I am now matters more than who I was 15 years ago. And who are you now, Mr. Sim? Tae-young looked directly at Judge Morrison. I'm someone who reads Korean folktales to Kyra before bed. I'm someone who fixed Martha's porch railing and researched arthritis treatments. I'm someone who walks Susan home from late shifts to make sure she's safe. He paused. I'm not asking this court to excuse my past. I'm asking it to see that people can become better than they were. Martha's testimony was devastating, clear, unflinching. I've known 2 men in my daughter's life. Justin has a spotless record because he's never been caught. Tae-young has a complicated record because he got caught, served consequences, and changed. Judge Morrison leaned forward. Mrs. Jacobs, are you concerned about your granddaughter's safety around Mr. Sim? Martha's answer was immediate. No, Your Honor. I'm concerned about her safety around her biological father. Justin stalked my daughter, filed frivolous lawsuits, uses his child as a weapon. She didn't waver. Tae-young made mistakes 15 years ago and spent 5 years becoming someone different. If this court can't tell the difference between someone who changed and someone who just hasn't been caught yet, I don't know what to say. Catherine called Susan last. Final witness. Susan stood, walked to the stand. Navy dress. Simple, dignified, took the oath. Her testimony was clear, exhausted but honest. Your Honor, I know Tae-young's history. He told me himself before Justin's PI ever found it. Michael Bradford's cross was aggressive. Miss Jacobs, you allow this man around your daughter knowing his history? Susan's answer was powerful. I allow a man who reads her bedtime stories, who remembers her stuffed elephant's name is Penelope, who fixed our porch railing because he noticed my mother struggling. Her voice strengthened. Who never raised his voice. Never made me feel small. Never made me question whether I was safe. Yes, I allow that man around my daughter. Are your romantic feelings clouding your judgment? No. Susan looked at Judge Morrison. My experience is informing it. I was married to a man with a spotless record who stalked me. I'm with a man who has a complicated past and has never made me feel anything but safe. She didn't look away. This court wants to judge safety by background checks. I'm judging it by behavior, by who shows up, who protects versus who harms. Judge Morrison's expression gave nothing away. I'll take this under advisement. Decision within 7 business days. The gavel fell. Final. Terrifying. Susan, Martha, Tae-young, and Catherine exited. Uncertain. Exhausted. The wait had begun. If you were Judge Morrison, what would you decide? Can people truly leave their past behind? Or does it always define them? Drop your verdict in the comments. 7 days felt like 7 years. Susan returned to work. County Memorial. Same shifts. Same patients. But she was barely functional. Tuesday, she almost gave Mr. Patterson the wrong medication. Catherine from pediatrics caught it. Susan, you okay? But she wasn't. Wednesday, she cried in the supply closet. 15 minutes. Between bedpan changes and vital checks. Trying to hold herself together. Sleep was impossible. 2 hours a night. Maybe. Lying awake. Staring at the ceiling. Waiting. Kyra asked questions. Why does Mommy seem sad? Susan lied. Just tired, baby. But Kyra knew. 3-year-olds always knew. Tae-young kept his distance. Catherine's advice. Don't give them ammunition if the judge is still deciding. But he texted constantly. Morning. Afternoon. Night. Just breathe. We did everything right. Just breathe. That phrase. Their phrase. From that first night, it kept her anchored. Barely. Martha was unwavering. Cooking meals Susan couldn't eat. Holding her while she cried. Reminding her she wasn't alone. You're going to get through this, baby. Susan wanted to believe her. Couldn't quite manage it. Day 7. Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. Susan was on break. Hospital cafeteria. Lukewarm coffee from the Keurig machine. Her phone buzzed. Email. From Catherine. Subject line. Decision received. Susan's heart stopped. Actually stopped. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Just stared at those 2 words. Finally clicked. Ruling attached. Call me. Her hands shook too hard to open the PDF. 3 tries. Finally, it loaded. Order granting respondent mother full physical and legal custody with supervised visitation for petitioner father. Susan read it again. Then again. Judge Morrison's reasoning followed. The court found no credible evidence that Tae-young's past posed current danger. He'd operated legitimate businesses for 5 years, paid taxes, demonstrated consistent, positive presence in Kyra's life. Conversely, Justin's pattern was damning. Missed visitations, no child support, documented stalking, weaponizing custody to harass Susan. The judge granted Susan full custody, permanent restraining order, supervised visits only for Justin. Susan's vision blurred. Tears. Relief. 3 years of fear pouring out. She called Catherine from the parking lot. Couldn't speak. Just sobbed. Catherine's voice was warm, professional but genuinely happy. You won, Susan. Full custody, restraining order, supervised visits only. A pause. Justin will pay your legal fees as sanction for frivolous filing. You won. Susan gasped for air. You stood up for yourself and your daughter. You chose to fight instead of folding. Catherine's voice softened. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Susan's whisper was broken. Grateful. Thank you for believing me. I didn't win this, Susan. Catherine's certainty came through. You did by being brave enough to trust yourself. Susan drove home. Probably shouldn't have. Vision blurred with tears. Hands shaking on the wheel. But she made it. Burst through the door. Martha and Kyra were making cookies. Chocolate chip. Toll House recipe. The kitchen smelled like home. Martha took one look at Susan's face. Baby? Susan's sob was answer enough. I won, Mama. I get to keep her. Martha's tears came immediately. Fierce hug. Strong. Safe. Kyra looked up from cookie dough. Confused. Why is everyone crying? Martha laughed through tears. Happy tears, baby. Sometimes people cry when good things happen. Kyra considered this. Pragmatic. Can we still make cookies? 3 generations laughed. Yes. Cookies were still happening. Susan texted Tae-young, hands still shaking. Can you come over? I have news. His response was immediate. On my way. 20 minutes later. He definitely broke speed limits. Probably ran red lights. Susan opened the door. He stood there, breathless, terrified, not knowing what the news meant. Susan smiled. First real smile in 7 days. I won. His stunned silence. Then cautious hope. Full custody? Full custody, restraining order, supervised visits only. His reaction was immediate, pulling her into a fierce hug, face buried in her hair, trembling. You're safe now. Kyra's safe. You're both safe. Susan realized something. He was crying. This dangerous, controlled man. Crying in her mother's doorway. She held him tighter. Whispered back. We're safe. All of us. 6 months later, everything had changed. Martha lived in a renovated guest cottage. Tae-young's property in Pasadena, near Old Town. Beautiful. Quiet. Her arthritis had improved. Clinical trial treatments working. She had a garden now. Tomatoes. Herbs. Flowers blooming. Yellow roses. Her favorite. Hosted weekly book club. Friends. Laughter. The retirement she deserved. Susan was promoted. Charge nurse at County Memorial. RN certification complete. Leading overnight shift. Respected by colleagues. Financial stability. For the first time in her adult life. No more counting pennies. No more choosing between bills. She could breathe. Actually breathe. Kyra thrived. New school. Better district. Friends for playdates. Ballet classes on Saturdays. Pink tutu. Endless energy. No more nightmares. No more asking why daddy didn't visit. She was happy, secure, safe. Tae-young's businesses were fully legitimate. Board member of the Korean American Business Association, donated to domestic violence shelters, employed 70 people, fair wages, benefits. He'd become exactly what he'd worked 5 years to be. Honorable, legitimate, good. Justin had mandated therapy, supervised visitation twice monthly, mostly unused, showed up maybe 30% of the time, working in phone sales, living with roommates in the valley, less angry, not redeemed, but less dangerous. The restraining order held, no direct contact with Susan. All communication through family court portal, supervised exchanges, neutral location, social worker present. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. Sunday evening, Susan's favorite time, dinner at Tae-young's house. They'd moved in together 4 months ago. Gradual, careful, right. Martha's cottage glowed through the kitchen window. Warm lights. Safe. In the living room, Kyra taught Tae-young ballet. His solemn attempts to pirouette. Her delighted giggles. Susan washed dishes. Watched them. Heart full. Tae-young appeared behind her. Arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? She leaned back against him. About a midnight bus stop 2 years ago. About being so desperate I grabbed a stranger's hand. His question was soft. Regret it? Susan turned to face him. Met his eyes. Not for 1 second. Saturday morning. 3 years after that first midnight encounter. Susan woke at 8 a.m. Luxury. Pure luxury. No alarm. No early shift. Just soft morning light through curtains. She stretched. Padded to the kitchen. Coffee already brewing. Keurig humming. Tae-young had started it before his morning run. Thoughtful. Always thoughtful. Kyra was 6 now. Losing baby fat. Reading chapter books. Harry Potter. Percy Jackson. Questions about everything. Why is the sky blue? Where do babies come from? Can Penelope come to my school play? This morning, she chattered about her upcoming performance. The Little Mermaid. She was playing a sea creature. Very important role, she insisted. Martha was in her cottage, painting landscapes, healthier than she'd been in a decade. Clinical trial working miracles. Garden thriving. Life blooming. Perfect ordinary domestic morning. Pancakes. Coffee. Kyra's endless energy. Everything Susan never thought she'd have. Tae-young came back from his run. Nike running shoes. Gray athletic shirt. Slightly breathless. Let's go to the park today. Casual. Easy. All of us. It's supposed to be beautiful. Susan agreed immediately. Griffith Park. Their usual weekend spot. Martha joined. Brought a picnic lunch. Sandwiches from Whole Foods. Fruit. Lemonade. Completely normal family outing. Kyra on the swings. Higher. Higher. Feeding ducks at the pond. Stale bread saved from breakfast. Martha reading on a bench. Mystery novel. Agatha Christie. Her favorite. Susan oblivious to Tae-young's nervous energy. The way he kept checking his pocket. Adjusting his jacket. Looking at his watch. Late afternoon. Golden hour light filtered through trees. Soft. Warm. Perfect. They sat on a hill overlooking LA. City sprawling below. Endless. Beautiful in the fading light. Kyra picked flowers nearby. Dandelions. Weeds, really. But beautiful to her. Martha watched from a distance. Knowing. Smiling. Tae-young's voice was quiet. Can I tell you something? Susan turned. Always. His story came slowly. Carefully. 3 years ago, I was standing outside a restaurant at midnight. He looked at the city. Successful by every measurable standard. Money, business, respect. A pause. Completely empty. His hand found hers. Then a terrified woman grabbed my hand and said, "Please, and my entire life changed. Susan's throat tightened. Mine too. You saved my life before we ever met. His voice was thick with emotion. You showed me protection isn't about power, it's about presence. You taught me reformation is possible. That past doesn't determine future. That choosing to be better every day is what matters. He turned to face her fully. You gave me a family when I thought I'd build my life alone. Tae-young reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. Navy blue. Simple. Then dropped to one knee on that Griffith Park hillside. Susan's tears came immediately. Hand over mouth. Susan Jacobs. His voice was steady despite emotion. You're the bravest person I've ever known. You grabbed a stranger's hand when you were terrified. You fought for your daughter when the system was stacked against you. You chose to trust again after being betrayed. He opened the box. You built a family from courage and hope, and stubborn refusal to give up. Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be half as brave as you are? His eyes met hers. Will you marry me? Before Susan could answer, a delighted shriek. Appa, did you ask her yet? Kyra. Running over. Flowers forgotten. Tae-young's sheepish look. I might have told Kyra this morning. She said yes, right? Kyra's eyes were wide. Excited. She has to say yes. Susan laughed through tears. I haven't said anything yet. But you're going to say yes, right? Kyra's practical wisdom at 6. Because Appa picked the ring with me and we got the simple one you like, not the big sparkly one, and he practiced asking me like 40 times, and... Susan interrupted, looking at Tae-young. You practiced on our 6-year-old? His defense was immediate. I wanted to get it right. Susan pulled Kyra into her lap, kept one hand in Tae-young's, addressed Kyra first. What do you think? Should I marry Appa? Kyra's assessment was solemn. Serious. Yes, because then he'll really be my family forever. No takebacks. Susan's heart cracked. Wide open. Baby, we're already family. Forever. No takebacks. Kyra shook her head. But if you marry him, everyone will know. Like, official. Susan looked at Tae-young. Still on one knee. Patient. Loving. Certain. Her answer came easy. Clear. Yes. She smiled through tears. Yes, I'll marry you. 1,000 times yes. Tae-young slid the ring on her finger. Simple platinum band. Single diamond. Exactly her style. Not flashy. Not expensive looking. Just perfect. The kiss was gentle. Reverent. Kyra made exaggerated gagging sounds. Gross. But she was smiling. Martha appeared. Phone in hand. Tears streaming. I've been recording for 10 minutes, don't mind me. Family group hug on that Griffith Park hillside. 4 people who chose each other. Built family from courage and love. Refusing to give up. Kyra's satisfied declaration. Now we're really, really official. Tae-young laughed. Really, really official. Susan kissed Kyra's head. Forever, no takebacks. That evening, after Kyra asleep, after Martha gone to her cottage, Susan and Tae-young sat on the back porch, his arms around her, ring catching starlight. Simple, beautiful, real. Do you ever regret it? His question was soft. That night you grabbed my hand? Everything that came after the custody battle? The judgment? The complications? Her answer was immediate. Certain. Not for 1 second. She turned in his arms. I regret the years before, when I thought I had to survive alone, but grabbing your hand, choosing to fight, building this family. She smiled. I'd do it all again. His reflection came slowly. You gave me something I didn't think I could have. Voice thick. A reason to be better than my past. A family that chose me knowing exactly who I was. Her truth matched his. You gave me safety without control. Partnership without surrender. She touched his face. You made me believe I deserved more than just surviving. Comfortable silence. City lights twinkling below. Pasadena spreading out. Endless. Beautiful. Susan's whispered thought. Somewhere in LA right now. Maybe there's another desperate woman stepping off a late bus. Pause. Maybe she's being followed. Maybe she's terrified. Tae-young's quiet question. What would you tell her? Susan's wisdom came from experience. Hard-earned. Real. I'd tell her fear is information, not destiny. I'd tell her asking for help isn't weakness, it's the first step toward saving yourself. She leaned back. Safe. Loved. I'd tell her the right person won't make her feel small for needing safety. And I'd tell her 3 years from now, she might be sitting on her porch, engaged to the stranger who walked her home, building a life she couldn't imagine was possible. Tae-young's addition was soft. I'd tell her some strangers are worth trusting. Susan's smile caught the moonlight. And some midnight gambles change everything. If Susan's story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's surviving instead of living. Someone who's forgotten what safety feels like. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is reach for help. And sometimes, the stranger who helps you becomes home. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about courage, love, and refusing to give up. Because everyone deserves a second chance at happiness. And some love stories are worth fighting for.